Before you go for any e-bike ride, there are 5 different areas you should check on your bike. You might think of it like a pre-flight check. In any aircraft, no matter how old or modern it might be, there is something called a pre-flight checklist. There are certain things you inspect before you even get in the airplane. And I think that's one of the top reasons why airplanes today are so safe. Not because they are inherently reliable, but because people are actively looking for problems and preventing them before they happen. I think electric bikes could have an equally excellent safety record. These are far more important than just blowing the dust off the airplane or your bicycle. Most of these things are about maintaining control. For an aircraft, that means you're walking around the plane, checking for loose nuts, bolts, you're checking your control surfaces to make sure they're tight and they're moving properly. And we basically want to do the same thing with an electric bike. We want to make sure everything is working properly so we can be in control of the bike at all times and it's not in control of us. The connection between the bicycle and the ground starts at the hub. That is the point that is spinning and rotating, and I think that is something that is critical to check. And I do have some personal experience with this. Although I've never lost a wheel while riding, I did come close. I was on a mountain biking team ride, and at one of the stopping points, kind of waiting for everybody to gather up, I had a fellow rider look at my wheel and say, hey, you want to make sure your quick release is pointed in a upward direction or back, depends on the fork and how it's designed, because if it's hanging straight down, like mine was, it could potentially be loose. And as he said that, he flicked my quick release, and sure enough, it actually was loose on that downhill. So thankfully he was there and watching out for me. We quickly tightened it up and went on our way, but that could have been disastrous. On higher end bikes like this secret prototype, you might have through axles. You want to make sure that these nuts, however they are fastened, are tight. Some will have a couple of pinch bolts on the front of the fork. You also want to check the rear axle and make sure it's tight. Make sure that there's no movement side to side, forward to back, anywhere with either of your wheels. Once again, that's number 1 for maintaining control. This is something that I do see missed. If the wheels are firmly attached, then that means the bike is going to roll safely. So if we can move under our own power, can we stop? After you start up an aircraft and you begin to move, the very first thing you do, personally I do that within the first few feet of moving forward, is a quick brake check and make sure the brakes are working. It's possible to go really fast without working brakes, and obviously that's not something that we want. You want to check your brakes before you start moving at any great speed. If you don't check your brakes before you take off, you could end up running off of the end of the runway after landing. I think the result with bikes could be equally as catastrophic. You can get up nice and close to your wheels before you even start riding. Give the brakes a nice firm squeeze and make sure that they stop like they're supposed to. While you're at it, if your bike has a decent number of miles on it, take a look at your brake pads and make sure that the pads themselves are not worn down to the point where they will be ineffective at some point on your ride. At this point, your bike should be able to roll safely, it should be able to stop safely, but is it going to steer correctly and safely? Probably the most critical connection would be from your fork up to your handlebars. If you follow things going up with the fork, you can make sure that there's no slack anywhere in the head tube. You can make sure that the bolts on your stem are tight. Even if they're titanium, they could come loose. And you want to make sure the 4 bolts on the front of your stem holding your handlebars on are nice and firm. For checking the headset, I would grab your front brake and rock the bike back and forth and make sure you don't have any wiggling or wobbling or clicking noises anywhere in this area right here. And to make sure your fork and your handlebars are all tightened up and they're not going to twist on you, you can easily just put the front tire between your legs like this and give the handlebars a good firm twist left and right and make sure that it cannot move. And while you're at it, I would give the bike basically a walk around like you would for an aircraft and see if you have any loose nuts or bolts anywhere at all on the bike. That could be your crank bolts, your seat post mount or the seat post clamp, or even your battery mounts. And number 4, critically important for an aircraft, equally as important for an e-bike, check your fuel. In this case, that is your battery. Make sure it's fully charged. If you have 2 batteries, check each of them individually, either so you have the range that you want, or you don't get completely disappointed and show up somewhere ready to ride with a dead battery. And number 5, you should not only check your tire pressure and make sure they're pumped up properly, but you can take a look around the bead and make sure it's not off of the rim at any point and the tire's not wobbling in any way. This would also be a good time to check for any thorns, nails, screws, anything stuck in the tire that might be causing a slow leak you haven't seen yet. And if you have a lot of miles on the bike, check your tire tread carefully. Make sure that it's not too worn down and the tire isn't in need of replacement. Many of you are probably wondering what this bike is. It has currently a battery like the Blackbird. I'm wearing my Blackbird t-shirt and even a SR71 Blackbird hat, but this is clearly not a Blackbird. It has a mid-drive, 11-speed cassette, and the frame is made of titanium. The spacers are titanium. The stem is titanium. Even the seat post and the seat clamp are titanium. This is not a production bike yet. This is a prototype, which you can learn more about if you're a research technician level member of the channel. If you're interested in more of that, you can always hit that join button down below. But back to these 4.7-inch wide tires, why do so many e-bikes have fat tires like this? What's the advantage? Where do they come from? Why do we use them? Well, you can learn all about that in this video right here.